Okay, week 4. I'm going to try not to talk so long this time that YouTube will cut me off. I'm going to start today, though, by talking a little bit about your papers. I want to make sure that you understand that your paper should be focused around the literary elements. Okay? You can basically talk about whatever you want to talk about as long as you relate it back to theme, symbol, character, setting, that list that you have in your resources section in Blackboard. You want to make sure that those are basically the skeletal frameworks of the development of your paper. Also, the rough draft is due this Sunday at midnight. It is a 0-point assignment. So, what's your motivation to do a 0-point assignment? I understand that, and that's fair. However, I will make you this promise. If you will take the time to do it, I will take the time to correct it, to give you all the information and all the input that you need to make changes if necessary, so that the final copy next week will be worth a very good grade. So that's the deal that I'm going to make with you about the rough draft of your paper. Now, if I'm missing something from you, just go ahead and email it to me, and we'll communicate that way. Alright, quickly, literature. The A and P. We've got Sammy, our would-be hero, who sacrifices his compensation, his income, to save the honor of Queenie, Plaid, and my personal favorite, Big Tall Goonie. And these are his nicknames that he makes up for these girls in his own mind, and they come inappropriately dressed, according to Lingale, the manager. And he says, "Hey, don't do this again." And Sam's like, "Wait, you can't be telling them that. That's not fair. I'm going to stand up for them, and I'm going to hand you my apron right now, and I quit." And he wanted the girls to fawn all over him for this, and they were gone. So, yeah, probably not Sammy's greatest moment. Then we have Ernest Hemingway, who had a problem with alcohol himself. And we have a character who's dealing with suicide, which is also quite autobiographical, now that we know that Hemingway himself committed suicide as well. So those things make A Clean, Well-Lighted Place make a little more sense, because it's one of those stories that absolutely makes you scratch your head, because you're going, what in the world's going on here? This man's just sitting here drinking. And the alcohol is an escape, of course, but also the cafe, the fact that it's clean, the fact that it's well lit, it gives him an escape, and also the old waiter, an escape from their dark, insomniac ridden lives. So the young waiter cannot identify with that, because he is not isolated like the older characters are. And especially there's an added layer to that with Hemingway and the old man, the customer, because he's also deaf. So it just puts one more layer between him and the rest of the world. It's like he's completely shut off. He's totally lonely, totally isolated, which really would have spoken to Hemingway. Okay, the big one, the long one, Death of a Salesman. Death of a Salesman is a play by Arthur Miller, and it's a quintessential work. It's an iconic American literature piece. Most people, generally study it at some point. And it's the story of Willie, poor Willie, an aging, traveling salesman who is losing his memory. His best days are over. And his poor wife, Linda, who is hopeful that, one day he's going to make his big break and he's going to get promoted and he's going to have these big sales, which is just really quite unrealistic. We see that Willie has some mental issues, because he keeps talking about how his mind is a sieve. That's kind of like a colander, a strainer. He can only remember nothing, and everything just kind of seems to fall out of the holes. And we also see the flashbacks from his older brother, who's dead, but he kind of appears to Willie sometimes, so that also gives us more evidence there that Willie's not the soundest mind. He's got a lot of guilt issues because of the woman the mistress in the Boston hotel room that Biff actually catches him sleeping with, walks in on his dad, and Willie blames himself for Biff's failure because he couldn't pass math because of the distraction of the marital problems and just the overwhelming sense of disappointment in his father. And Biff is more than happy to blame his father as well for the fact that he didn't pass math. Willie basically has no future, no hope. His neighbor Charlie helps him out, bails him out, and helps him pay his bills because Charlie's a successful guy. But the story is one of hopelessness, and that is borne out by the fact that he decides to end everything, and he also commits suicide at the end of the play. So it is definitely not something to read if you want to lift your spirits, which not many of the things that we read would do that, to be honest. The swimmer, poor old Nettie. Nettie also has some mental issues. He's in denial. He's completely deluded. He has decided he's going to swim the private pools in his very wealthy county from his party where he's at all the way home. And in so doing, he encounters all of these people who kind of fill in the puzzle pieces for you as the reader. You know, we get the woman who's like, oh, I'm so sorry you're going through what you're going through. And he's like, I don't know what you're talking about. Because he's completely delusional. He's completely in denial about losing his family. And then we get another family who won't give him any alcohol because, you know, the insinuation is that maybe he has too much alcohol in his life. And, you know, he finally makes his way home only to find that his house has been sold and his family's gone. And he doesn't remember any of this. So it's a very sad state of affairs for poor Nettie. He is left with nothing. Again, not very uplifting. Okay, the rich brother. We have Pete and we have Donald. And Pete is the picture of success. He is the American dream. Real estate, money, family, boat, house, 2 daughters, wife. And, you know, to look upon him, you know, what my students would probably call him if I described him to them would be successful. And that's what you're supposed to think. He's the successful brother. And you have Donald, who's in and out of hippie communes and, you know, doesn't really have a permanent address. He's just a drifter, and he never has any money because he's always borrowing money for Pete and he never pays him back. And he's your free spirit, definitely. And then we have Webster the con man who comes in and takes what little money Donald has, and he only has it because Pete just gave it to him. So, you know, we've got the problem here is that Pete doesn't trust anybody. Donald trusts everybody. So we've got 2 extremes of the same situation in one family. Of course, the quintessential question that the author wants you to answer there is, which one is really the rich brother? Is it the one who's tied to the obligations, or is it the one who is the free spirit? So that's what he really wants you to contemplate there. Minute 40, not a whole lot to say there besides what I put in the PowerPoint for you. I think this could probably be applicable to women at 40, as I'm pushing 40 myself. It's just a melancholy commentary on what used to be but won't ever be again. And that's what middle age can bring, and what it does for people is basically make them sad. Not always, of course, but the character in this poem obviously isn't handling it very well. If you have questions, let me know. Have a great week.